It's 40,000 years ago. You're standing outside your cave at dawn, and the sky is doing something it does every single day of your life, but you have absolutely no idea why. A giant ball of fire climbs up from behind the mountains. It burns your eyes if you stare too long. It disappears every night, and somehow, every single morning, it comes back. No science, no explanation, no Google, just fire in the sky, showing up on a schedule nobody set. Now imagine that. Imagine not knowing what the sun actually is. Would you worship it? Would you be terrified of it? Would you build an entire civilization around trying to keep it happy? Spoiler, that's exactly what happened for most of human history. And hey, real quick before we dive in, if you're into this kind of stuff, weird ancient beliefs, how humans figured things out the hard way, hit that subscribe button. Seriously, it takes 2 seconds and it helps this channel more than you'd think. And if this video's got you hooked already, smash that like button right now. Okay, let's get into it. Here's the thing you have to understand first. For basically 99% of human existence, nobody knew what the sun was. Not even a little bit. No atoms, no fusion, no idea that it's a giant ball of plasma 93 million miles away. To ancient humans, the sun wasn't a scientific object. It was a character. It had moods. It had power over life and death. And honestly, that makes total sense, because it kind of did. Crops only grew when the sun showed up. Warmth only existed when the sun showed up. And when the sun disappeared for too long, in winter, in eclipses, in storms, people starved, people froze, people died. So when your entire survival depends on something you don't understand and can't control, what do? You don't study it, you worship it. And that's exactly what happened. Everywhere, independently, all over the planet. In ancient Egypt, the sun wasn't just important, it was the main event. Ra, the sun god, was considered the king of all gods. Egyptians believed Ra sailed across the sky in a boat every single day, and every single night he sailed through the underworld, fighting off a giant serpent of chaos, just to rise again the next morning. That's not a metaphor to them. That was the literal explanation for sunrise. The sun survived a nightly war just so you could see tomorrow. Meanwhile, over in Mesoamerica, the Aztecs took things to a whole other level. They believed the sun god, Huitzilopochtli, needed to be fed. Not food, blood. Human blood, specifically. They genuinely believed that if they stopped offering sacrifices, the sun would lose its strength and just stop rising. Forever. Total darkness. End of the world. Think about that for a second. An entire empire organized its religion, its politics, even its wars around keeping a giant fireball fed. Over in Japan, the sun was a woman. Amaterasu, the sun goddess, was considered the most important deity in the entire Shinto religion. Legend says she once hid in a cave after being insulted, and the whole world went dark because of it. The other gods literally had to trick her out of the cave to bring daylight back. Japanese emperors, for centuries, claimed to be direct descendants of her. That's how much power the sun had. It wasn't just a god, it was royalty's family tree. And in Norse mythology, the sun wasn't safe at all. It was being chased. Norse legends describe the sun as a goddess named Sol, riding a chariot across the sky, being hunted by a wolf named Skull. And they believed that one day, during Ragnarok, the end of the world, that wolf finally catches her. Everywhere you look, different continents, different languages, zero contact with each other, and somehow every single culture landed on the same basic idea. The sun is alive. The sun is powerful, and the sun needs to be respected or else. Now, here's the part that should actually blow your mind. These civilizations had no contact with each other. Egypt didn't know the Aztecs existed. Japan had no idea about Norse mythology, and yet they all came to eerily similar conclusions. Why? Because the sun does the same thing to every human on Earth. It rises, it sets, it controls the seasons, it controls the harvest. And when something has that much control over whether you live or die, your brain doesn't shrug it off. Your brain builds a story around it every time. This isn't superstition for the sake of superstition. This was ancient humans doing the best science they could with zero instruments. No telescopes, no math for orbital mechanics, just pure observation, repeated for generations, turned into myth because myth was the only tool they had to explain it. But here's where it gets really impressive. Because ancient humans didn't just worship the sun, they started tracking it obsessively. Stonehenge in England, built around 5,000 years ago, lined up almost perfectly with the sunrise on the summer solstice. That's not an accident. That took generations of careful observation just to line up massive stones with a single sunrise, one day a year. The ancient Egyptians built their entire calendar around the sun's movements, and it was so accurate, it's basically the ancestor of the calendar hanging on your wall right now. The Maya built entire pyramids, like Chichin Itza, that create a shadow of a snake slithering down the steps, but only on the spring and fall equinox. That's architecture, precisely engineered thousands of years ago, just to track a burning ball of gas in the sky. No computers, no lasers, just patience and obsession. These weren't primitive people guessing randomly. These were people running long-term experiments across generations without even having the concept of what an experiment was. And then there were eclipses. Oh man, eclipses. Imagine you're an ancient human, and one random afternoon, without warning, the sun just starts disappearing. In the middle of the day, the sky goes dark, birds go quiet, the temperature drops, and you have absolutely no framework for understanding what's happening. Ancient Chinese astronomers believed a giant celestial dragon was eating the sun, and they'd bang drums and shoot arrows into the sky to scare it off. And here's the wild part. It worked every single time, because the eclipse always ended anyway, which, if you think about it, just reinforced the belief even harder. The Vikings thought wolves were finally catching the sun. Some cultures thought it was a punishment from the gods for something the people had done wrong. Almost every civilization on Earth independently came up with a story that boiled down to something is attacking the sun, and we need to fight back. That's not stupidity. That's the human brain doing exactly what it's built to do: pattern matching, storytelling, trying to make sense of chaos. So when did this actually start to shift? When did the sun stop being a god and start becoming a subject of study? Ancient Greek thinkers were some of the first to really push back on pure mythology. Guys like Anaxagoras, around 2,500 years ago, straight up suggested the sun wasn't a god at all, but a giant glowing rock, way bigger than Greece itself. And you know what happened to him for saying that? He got put on trial for impiety, for basically insulting the gods with facts. That's how dangerous it was to question the sun back then. It took thousands more years, Copernicus, Galileo, Newton, before humanity actually understood the sun for what it really is: a star, a massive nuclear furnace, 93 million miles away, holding our entire solar system together with gravity. And even after all that science, even after we've literally sent probes to study it up close, something interesting still happens. We still build our lives around it. We still chase sunsets for photos. We still feel something when the sun rises on New Year's Day. We still crave sunlight when winter drags on too long, so much that a lack of it can genuinely mess with our mood. So maybe ancient humans weren't as far off as we like to think. They didn't have the physics. They didn't know about fusion or plasma or gravity, but they understood something true anyway: that the sun controls us. That our entire existence, our food, our warmth, our mood, our sense of time itself is tied to a giant fireball in the sky that we don't actually control. Go back to that person standing outside their cave 40,000 years ago, staring up at the sunrise, with zero explanation for what they're seeing. They didn't have an answer. but they had a feeling. And that feeling turned out to be right. We didn't just study the sun. In a very real, very ancient way, the sun shaped us first.